You know a title race is heating up when a team goes behind, away from home, and still walks out with 3 points like it was part of the plan. Hello my lovely people, it's your host Smart, and today we're diving into a dramatic Saudi Pro League clash. Al-Fayha 1, Al-Nassr 3, a match that wasn't just about goals, but about momentum, mentality, and a second-half statement that might just shift the title narrative. Because let's be honest, when you concede first away from home, especially in a tight league race, panic usually knocks on the door. But Al-Nassr didn't panic. They recalibrated. The game started with Al-Fayha showing real intent. They weren't sitting deep. They weren't just defending numbers. They pressed in moments, disrupted midfield rhythm, and capitalized on a defensive lapse to take the lead. And when a so-called underdog scores first at home, the stadium energy changes instantly. Suddenly, the crowd believes. The opponent tightens up, and that's where character gets tested. Now here's where the match flipped. Al-Nassr didn't rush. They didn't go into chaos mode. They increased tempo gradually. More ball circulation, more diagonal switches, more overloads on the flanks. You could see the tactical adjustment. Stretch the pitch, pull the fullbacks wide, isolate the center backs. And then came the equalizer. A goal that felt less like relief and more like inevitability. Because once Al-Nassr found rhythm, Al-Fayha began retreating deeper and deeper. The pressing intensity dropped. The midfield compactness widened. And that's when the turnaround started cooking. Now let's talk about the headline name. Al-Hamdan. Completing the turnaround is not just about scoring a goal. It's about timing. It's about presence in the box when legs are heavy and defenders are reacting instead of thinking. His involvement in the decisive moment showed awareness and composure. Not flashy, not theatrical, just ruthless. And that third goal, that was the dagger. The kind that doesn't just win a match, it sends a message. Al-Nassr's second-half performance wasn't emotional. It was calculated. They increased vertical passes between lines. They pushed their fullbacks higher. They committed midfield runners beyond the striker. And most importantly, they stayed defensively disciplined while attacking. That balance is what separates contenders from entertainers. Now let's zoom out to the league table implications. This wasn't just 3 points. This was psychological leverage. When a team goes top after coming from behind, it sends pressure down the table. Rivals now have to respond. They can't afford to slip. And in tight title races, pressure is heavier than tactics. Al-Nassr showing they can win ugly, win from behind, and win away. That's championship behavior. But here's the deeper layer. Title races are not decided in 4-0 glamour wins. They're decided in matches like this, where you're uncomfortable, where the crowd is against you, where your defensive shape gets tested, where your patience gets questioned. And Al-Nassr passed that test. Defensively, they tightened second balls. Midfield control improved after halftime. And their substitutions added fresh legs exactly when the game needed energy. That's game management. Now let's talk mentality. When you concede first, you learn about your squad. Do they argue? Do they rush? Do they blame? Or do they trust the structure? Al-Nassr trusted the structure. And that's why this result matters more than the scoreline suggests. Because now the narrative shifts from can they keep up to who stops them. But let's not completely dismiss Al-Fayha. For large parts of the first half, they were brave. They pressed intelligently and took advantage of defensive hesitation. The problem wasn't intent, it was endurance. Once Al-Nassr increased tempo, Al-Fayha couldn't maintain compactness. And against elite sides, once you lose compactness, you lose control. So what's next? For Al-Nassr, momentum, confidence, and increased expectation. Because now being top isn't a chase, it's a defense mission. For Al-Fayha, lessons, especially in managing second-half pressure and sustaining midfield discipline. Now here's the big question for you. Does this comeback prove Al-Nassr have true championship resilience? Or was this just a moment of individual brilliance masking deeper defensive cracks? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like the video, subscribe to SmartSportStudio, and stay locked in. Because we don't just read results. We decode what they mean for the title race. Now that we've broken down the 4 key battles that could decide Arsenal versus Chelsea, let's talk about the real pressure cooker, the Premier League table. Because this derby, it's not just about London pride, it's about consequences. And when you zoom out and look at the standings, you realize something. This match doesn't just move 3 points, it moves momentum, psychology, and the shape of the entire title race. Let's start with Arsenal. If Arsenal win this game, it does 3 major things. First, it keeps them firmly in control of the title race. In tight seasons, consistency in derbies matters. If Manchester City are lurking just behind, and we know they usually are, Arsenal cannot afford emotional slips. A derby win sends a message. We are not blinking. Second, it strengthens belief inside the dressing room. Title races are not only tactical, they are mental marathons. When players look at the table and see daylight between them and the chasing pack, confidence multiplies. Confidence improves risk-taking. Risk-taking creates goals. Goals create wins. It becomes a loop. Third, it increases pressure on Manchester City, and this is key. The earlier you force City into chasing mode, the more psychological strain you place on them. Even elite teams feel it when they must win every week. Now flip it. What if Arsenal drop points? Suddenly the narrative changes from control to vulnerability. A draw feels small on paper, but in a title race, a draw at home against a rival feels like a door left slightly open. And Manchester City are specialists at walking through slightly open doors. If Arsenal lose, that's when doubt creeps in. Because then the conversation becomes, can they handle the pressure when it truly matters? And once doubt enters a title race, it spreads fast. Now let's look at Chelsea. For Chelsea, this match is less about the title and more about positioning, especially the top 4 and Champions League qualification. If Chelsea win, they don't just take 3 points, they take credibility. A win at the Emirates instantly shifts perception. Suddenly, the headlines say Chelsea are serious. Suddenly, their squad feels validated. Suddenly, every remaining fixture looks more manageable because confidence rises. And here's the table impact. The difference between 4th and 6th in tight Premier League seasons can be as small as 3 or 4 points. A derby win doesn't just boost morale. It tightens the Champions League race dramatically. If Chelsea draw, it's respectable. A point away at Arsenal is never disastrous, but it doesn't accelerate them. It keeps them in the pack rather than ahead of it. If Chelsea lose, that's where it becomes uncomfortable, because then the gap to the Champions League places could widen. And when you're chasing rather than controlling your destiny, pressure grows, and chasing teams sometimes overextend. Now here's the twist that makes this match even bigger. Goal difference. In modern Premier League races, goal difference has decided titles and top 4 finishes before. Arsenal's attacking approach means they often chase more than just one goal. Chelsea's defensive discipline might aim to keep the score tight, but if Arsenal win by multiple goals, that swing could matter in May. And here's the bigger league ripple effect. Tottenham, Liverpool, Manchester United, whoever is hovering in those European positions, will be watching this match like analysts, because one slip from either side reshapes the ladder. That's why this derby is bigger than London. It's a domino match. If Arsenal win, the title race tightens at the top but strengthens their grip. If Arsenal slip, Manchester City gain oxygen. If Chelsea win, the Champions League race compresses. If Chelsea lose, the European chase becomes harder. This is not just a fixture. This is a pivot point. And here's the funny thing about football. Sometimes the most important matches of a season are not against the teams directly competing with you for the same position. Sometimes they're about momentum. Sometimes they're about fear. Sometimes they're about belief, and belief is contagious. If Arsenal walk away from this derby smiling, the Emirates becomes a fortress psychologically. If Chelsea walk away with something big, the rest of the league starts recalculating them. So now I turn it to you. Does this derby decide the title momentum? Does it reshape the top 4? Or is this just another 3 points in a long marathon? Drop your predictions, because in May, when we look back at the table, this might be the game we circle and say, that's where it shifted. If you think this is just Man United versus Crystal Palace, you're about to watch the Premier League that remind everybody that top 4 pressure can make even a simple Sunday feel like a final. Today we're breaking down Manchester United versus Crystal Palace at Old Trafford, a match that looks calm on paper, but is actually loaded with league table tension and a couple of spicy subplots, including the fact that this game is being framed as a top 4 momentum test for United right now. Now let's set the scene properly. United come into this one in strong league form under Michael Carrick. Results have improved, confidence looks higher, and Old Trafford has started feeling like a home again instead of a therapy session. The objective is clear. Keep stacking points because the table around the Champions League places is tight, and Liverpool are literally breathing on necks, level on points with United holding a game in hand. Crystal Palace, though, are not coming as tourists. They've been steadier lately, and their recent run suggests they're capable of frustrating teams, especially when the game becomes a tempo fight instead of a talent fight. So here's how this match can actually be decided. First battle, United's front line versus Palace's low block discipline. When Palace defend well, they defend with shape. They try to keep distances tight, force you wide, then make you cross into traffic. So United's job isn't just attack, it's attack with patience, then speed up at the right moment. That means 2 things. United must move the ball quickly side to side to drag Palace's midfield out of position, and they must make the box messy. Second balls, rebounds, cutbacks, and runners arriving late. If United fall into the trap of sideways cross, Palace will say thank you, clear it, and waste time so confidently you'll think they're doing a TED Talk on dark arts. Second battle, United's press versus Palace's first pass out. This is where Carrick's United have looked different. More coordinated pressure, more collective sprinting, more we're hunting together energy. Palace's biggest danger is when they escape the first press and turn it into a transition. One clean bypass and suddenly you're defending your own box with your heart beating in your ears. United need controlled aggression, press high, but keep a responsible rest defense shape behind the ball, because Palace live for the moment you overcommit.